Joshua,
Hey, good morning, Dan.
good morning, Josh. Quick question for you. Did you get a hug from your daughter this morning when she went to school?
Well, not exactly. I didn't get to see my kids this morning, so I couldn't get a hug.
So then we're both on the same page because I also struck out with a hug from the 7-year-old Joshua.
Denied,
Denied.
rejected.
So just for,
Bruise to the ego.
for any of you other parents out there that really want a hug and don't get one, I'm here for you. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
So.
To all you other neglected parents, you're in a huge
But you
group.
know what? I feel like I'm doing so much better with it, Josh. I'm taking it on the chin, and I'm just letting her be her own authentic self, you know?
Yeah.
So
Did you tell her that?
I don't know if I told her
I
that.
don't know
but
if
I
you
feel
could
like,
tell her, hey, I just want you to know, I would like a hug, but
Yeah.
you also get to choose who you hug.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to hug me, I'm not going to force it, but I do want you to know that I desperately long for a hug. No guilt trip, just like clearly communicating your space
Yeah.
and giving her space.
Yeah.
Which that was another obvious thing this morning was her desire for her own space.
Was the telltale sign when I sat next to her at the breakfast table and she just got up and moved?
She literally moved rooms.
Yeah.
She has a bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everyone has a bubble. It's just different sizes. Sometimes it goes away. Sometimes it pops up. But
Yeah.
learning like what our kids' bubbles are. And we I don't know if when we talked about that, but when your kid doesn't want to talk and maybe they do need help, like trying to weigh out, do you burst the bubble and like push in on their space for their sake? Or does that make it worse? It really depends on the kid and the situation.
Yeah.
If you can read, are they reachable? Then you venture into the bubble and see if you can't, what would you do? Disable the force field?
Right.
But if you don't have strong confidence that you can get in there and disable it, you let it sit there and you say, I see your space. I see your bubble. I want to respect that. As soon as it goes down, can we talk? Or as soon as you feel like talking, can we talk? Something like that. So they know your intention, but also feel like you see and respect their need for space.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids will always have the bubble up and it won't leave any room for a relationship. And so sometimes a parent has to venture into that bubble and say, hey, sorry, but like we got to have something here.
Like the bubble boy.
Yeah. Imagine
like the bubble boy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the bubble boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it all worked out. She then wanted to show me a big spider web in the window, so it all worked out. So
like
I got
that was
a
an
little
olive
bit of
branch.
Yeah, so there it was. So
Dad,
I feel good.
I won't hug you, but do you want to look at this spider
Yeah.
web?
So for all
That's
you
good.
pretty good parents out there that are feeling hurt and neglected by your kids, again, I'm here for you. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
And,
you had to use some emotional regulation
I did have to use.
that we talked about last week.
Hear that, everybody? That's called a segue. Segue.
So smooth.
So that was our last topic last week. If you missed it, pretty good parents, emotional regulation. Quick recap on that, Joshua.
Well, one of your favorite lines.
Yeah.
You got to take care of numero uno.
Yes.
In this case, you got to be aware of numero uno and our own emotional regulation in terms of our ability to teach and model and help our children to have good emotional regulation. So, starting with ourselves, understanding what we're putting off, what we're reacting to, what kind of energy that we're handing off to them and modeling. Quick resets, is it breathing? Is it touch? Is it get outside? Is it to do something funky and weird or funny? Lower our body position, take a knee, put our hand on their shoulder, all those different things to like put ourselves in check and then invite them into like a calmer space is good for the relationship. And more importantly, it's modeling to them the awareness of what they might need for themselves and how to calm themselves down versus us just scolding or directing their emotional behavior. It's wiser and more helpful to like invite them into a more desirable routine or space. So we, covered a lot of different scenarios and examples of what it looks like to emotionally regulate. But if there's one big takeaway, it's start with yourself as a parent and dial in your own emotional regulation in your attempt to model and teach what you want for your child and how they respond to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really great episode, and I feel like I definitely pulled from that in my my bruised ego of getting no hug, no goodbye hug.
Yeah.
But I was able to emotionally regulate myself, Joshua. Appreciate it.
Good. Well, it's just it's important that every parent feels accepted in a sense of like normalcy of how hard it is to like always be on as a parent and to feel like everything's absorbed. That's why it's the pretty good parent is there's just no way we're going to be perfect. And the pretty good parent makes mistakes but recovers well.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I had to on Sunday where we were trying to climb over this chain link fence to get in to go kick some soccer goals. And my son was having a hard time getting over the fence and I lost it. And I thought, this is like a standard boy skill set that every boy should have. And partly is, did I not teach him how to climb the fence? And partly I'm thinking, why are you wimping out when you get to the top?
Mm-hmm.
And I got very critical and hurt his feelings. He ended up like laying on the ground, kind of moping because he felt so judged by dad. And I stood in my justified pride for maybe like 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less, until finally common sense sank in. You care about this person almost more than anyone else in the world. This is not a good lesson for him to feel unaccepted and judged by his dad because he can't climb a 10-foot chain link fence.
Mm-hmm. 10 foot, that's pretty tall.
Yeah. But
yeah,
still.
That's like the size of a basketball hoop.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you wedge your feet in, use your hands, loop your leg over. You've done it a bunch. There weren't even like stickers on the top to get you know?
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't matter. What's more important is that he feels supported and accepted and challenged, not just challenged and criticized. And so I went and picked him up, and he was crying. And I walked him over to the soccer goal to get a little bit of movement, but I apologized the whole time saying, I'm really sorry. I recognize that I wasn't being helpful. I'm sorry I made you feel bad. That's not okay. I can do better. I will do better. And, will you forgive me? And then later he said, Dad, can I give you a tip?
Oh,
and
yes.
I said,
That's
absolutely.
what I love about Isaiah. He's not afraid of giving tips.
That's so good. Absolutely. He's like, well, Dad, when I'm climbing the fence, instead of telling me just get over the fence, maybe tell me where to put my foot or like how to get over it.
Yeah.
And I said, you're absolutely right. That's very appropriate and reasonable. And if I could rewind the clock, I would have maybe gone over quickly how to get over, how to use your feet, your hands, your body, and at those crucial spots that you were afraid, coach you and help you, not bark orders at you.
Right.
And so I commit to like doing a better job of that in the future. And it was like, a bro handshake and like, thanks, Dad. And I continue to apologize like for the next few hours, not excessively, but probably 2 to 3 more times saying it's not fair. I kind of lost my own energy, my own cool, took it out on you guys. You didn't do anything wrong. And I'm really sorry. Biggest thing is I don't want him to feel unaccepted and criticized as a person, which he definitely did. Because climbing a fence is just not a vital human skill set for life.
Right.
But feeling accepted and loved by a parent is close to like vital for human life, for, self-respect and identity. And it just got really out of balance for me to thinking like, how's my son not like just rip over this fence? And he's wimping out the top, and he can't put his foot in the chain link. Instead, just saying, hey, this is your son who you love, who's obviously struggling. What's it look like to help him right now? And when we're emotionally triggered, we say and do things that we regret and that causes harm. But being a pretty good parent, you catch it and you recover and you ask for forgiveness and you try to do it better next time.
Yeah. Well, we've all been there before, and I can definitely relate to the apologizing 2, 3, 4, 5 times throughout the day. Just be like, God, such an idiot. Why would I say that to my kid? But we've all been there, and I think you did a pretty good job, Josh.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There you go.
Good feedback.
That's awesome. All right. But, I feel like that's another good segue into what we're talking about today, which is our parenting intention.
Yeah.
Right. So setting the intent of how do we want to parent our kids, what do we want for our kids.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this maybe on our very first introduction episode, and it was something that I had never thought of ever as a parent. It was just sort of more, I have kids. I should probably feed them, change their diapers.
Yeah.
You're just... right from when you have kids, you just go, and you're just... I always felt like it was kind of like survival tactics, right?
Yeah. Just stay alive, keep them alive. Well, it's remarkable what a significant event it is to have a child and how unclear or undefined our parenting goals or intentions are. Mm-hmm. And I would say on my impression of working with, lots of parents over the years, most parents don't have a clear intention or goal. It really is this weird mix of, what do I want out of life? I want to stay alive. I want to be happy. Oh, I want my kids to be happy. Oh, they should do this. They should go here. And we're off to our day. Instead of, what do I think is the best thing for my kids that I can actually help shape or encourage? And what does it look like today? And am I evaluating that? Any reasonable goal orientation, whether it be our career or some activity, we would have a clearly defined goal and we'd have clear measurements and we'd have reviews of our progress with that. And yet the most influential thing we'll ever do on earth is to be a parent. Mm-hmm. And rarely do we have anything like that.
Right.
And we have these random benchmarks of like, well, are their grades good? Do they have friends? Are they good in their sports or their activities? Do they sound intelligent to our friends? And, are their manners good? Or I don't know, just not that those are unimportant things, but they're loosely defined, poorly measured, poorly taught oftentimes, maybe indirectly, and really oftentimes not in line with the true values of the parent, right? So if I asked you if you could have one thing for, your children as a parent that you got to like one wish or one goal for them, what would it be? And then do you parent that way? And I would say some parents might fire off something or have a hard time doing that. And they're probably not daily, just like I'm not, daily thinking, am I doing the best I can to make that a reality for them? But that's what an intention would be, is understanding we are teaching and modeling something. Most of it's unconscious and indirect. But how powerful it is when we kind of sync up vision, practice, and feedback loops as parents to actually make this thing a reality for our children, whether that's happiness or work ethic or being a good friend or being having good work. I just said work ethic, but whatever it is, actually having it on our radar daily of am I doing my best to help them in this area? So that's what I want to explore today, is how easy it is for us to wake up every day as parents and just do the low-hanging fruit, like keep them alive, make sure they're fed, throw them into this thing, and maybe have a relationship with them, a little bit of reciprocity, and then we go to sleep. And we're likely missing amazing opportunities to model or expose them to something more meaningful. And that's what I want to encourage and inspire the pretty good parent to be, is see what a privilege it is to have opportunity to shape someone's life forever, right? Like the what of this today is, the why is it significantly impacts our parenting relationship. And as a result, it significantly is impacting our child's life forever. How
Mm-hmm.
they see themselves, their idea of family, their idea of like being human and what it looks like to be in this world, and then their idea of what it looks like to be a mom or a dad or a family member, significantly impacted by of what we do and what we prioritize. Arguably, like the biggest legacy, the biggest, footprint you're ever going to leave on this earth, if you're a parent, is what kind of parent were you and what did you instill and model and encourage?
Yeah, no, that's huge, and I think I know again, like I had never thought about it once. I think about setting an intention, and then um, I guess I'm always wanting to dive into the how. Are you ready to dive into the how?
Yeah.
Just because I guess one of my main questions as I'm thinking about this just popped in my head was, you know, do you want like an overarching sort of intention with lots of sub intentions? Or I guess what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm just thinking there's so many, I guess, facets to being a human being, right? And
Yeah.
so, we always had these I guess I always personally defaulted to, if there was one thing, it was just treat people how you want to be treated, right? Like
Yeah.
if that was just one thing, that was just sort of, I sort of almost put that as my overall philosophy for life. Like I just thought if I did that,
Yeah.
if I could teach my kids that, that's pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
But then life gets real nuanced and there's going to be a lot of other things. So it's like how deep, like how many intentions? I guess, do you want one intention? Do you want five? Do you want 10? Is there a golden number?
In general, when it comes to goals and intentions, the smaller the number, the easier it is to stay focused, and the more likely it is you're going to achieve it. I mean, definitely under 5 for most kind of goals, work goals, personal goals, parenting goals, because it's really hard to track
Right.
successfully, and with all the stuff that goes on in life, to have more than 5 seems unrealistic. It seems like 3 is a really good number in lots of areas. This is nuanced for sure because it comes down to personal belief systems, right? So what we value, we tend to value for our children, understandably. And we tend to want those same things for them. Like, I want you to feel this way, believe this way, behave this way, achieve these things in life. I think it takes a lot of introspection and awareness to understand what our values are and beliefs are, and is it appropriate and helpful and doable to have those for our children. This isn't about, although I'm going to have a strong opinion about what I think is best for children in terms of what's, parenting goals we take on. It really is a personal belief system, like yours being a good human is a parenting intention. One is it's a life philosophy for yourself that you believe in enough that you want your children to live by that golden rule of treat others the way you'd like to be treated. You can obviously apply that every day in a million situations, and it will be a guiding light as a parent. And I would say that's a great one. If for that to become their guiding light, though, you probably have to talk about it often, not on loop where the kids are like, "Shut up, Dad," like we've heard that 1,000 times, but tactfully and consciously working it into like life circumstances and situations. But inevitably, you're going to have to talk about what your philosophy of work ethic, or pushing yourself outside your comfort zone to reach new heights. Like, there are those elements that most parents value that they want to instill in their children. It's just important that you know where they're weighted in terms of your own value system and what's really best for the child. So, for example, if it was accomplish great things in life and that overshadowed enjoying life or expressing your gratitude towards life or people, a child could start to believe that it's about achievement, and their self-worth and their self-acceptance and their acceptance from others is contingent upon their achievements.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone could say, like, well, that's not a healthy way to live, because that becomes like you become an addict to the next achievement, because that's where your rewards are. If I do this, so and so will say good job, and that makes me feel good, so I have to keep doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I'm good already because I'm loved, I'm liked, and I'm here, and I want to enjoy it. And I'm doing this sport, this activity, this job. I want to do a good job of it. It's not, I do it so I feel it. And as parents, unbeknownst to a lot of parents, we're shaping that practice and that framework for our kids of building a model of self-acceptance. Is it, are you okay already? Or is it contingent upon what you do next? And how much emphasis is put on what you do next in terms of self-acceptance? That's a slippery slope, because we want them to learn how to try hard and succeed, and we want to celebrate them when they succeed. And if that's all we do, we can reinforce this idea that you're only good and accepted when you're achieving great things.
Mm-hmm.
And so having intention of, I want them to know that they're good regardless of what they achieve, or I want them to be healthy people. Well, healthy people aren't always needing to achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
They can and will achieve, but they also are able to just enjoy life, enjoy the day without needing to prove themselves. Or I want my children to be grateful human beings. Well, gratitude isn't specific to success. In fact, most gratitude is in the face of adversity, or the greatest gratitude practice is up or down, right or wrong, good or bad, you're grateful for all of it, because it's all a gift and it's all happening, and there's no guarantee it's going to continue. To be grateful is a lifelong practice that I feel like keeps the internal sunshine shining, which is one of the things I want for my children. And I model that by regularly saying, it's a beautiful day. I'm grateful to be alive today. I'm grateful to live in this beautiful place. I'm grateful that we have our health today, that we can walk and smell and taste and laugh, because there's no guarantee or promise we can continue to do those things. I feel like I'm gifting my kids a worldview that allows them to enjoy life regardless of circumstances and regardless of achievement, which feels almost like a superpower of like well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I teach them just work ethic, but they might not have peace inside, or might not know how to celebrate or be grateful for their day. And they link working hard and achievement with feeling good, which then kind of makes them an addict to always working hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exaggeration for some people, but for a lot of people, that's the case. So having that intention and that reminder for ourselves likely will instill or model over time a worldview or a practice for our children. So I guess the question is, what are you trying to instill in them, and then the how is. Are you modeling it? Are you talking about it? Are you lecturing it, or are you sharing it? To say you should be grateful today. I've heard parents say that to kids. Kids like anxious or complaining and having, an entitled attitude. And it triggers the parent, because the parent values gratitude, wants their child to be grateful and not entitled. And instead of actually opening the door and diving into that subject and exploring it and maybe inviting them into a space of gratitude, they criticize and judge by saying, I can't believe you're so entitled. You should be grateful. Do you have any idea how hard I work and what your mom and I, or what your dad and I do for you? And this is how you repay us. This is how you thank us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slim chance the kid's going to get the right message. There's a really big chance the kid gets a you suck message, and not inviting them to gratitude, but modeling criticism. The sentiment is admirable. Hey, you should be grateful because people are working their asses off for you, and it's not cool to be entitled. I agree. But how you deliver it is almost everything.
Yeah.
And so the how is ask a question. share a vulnerable sentiment of like, hey, I just want you to know you have a right to feel how you feel. You maybe have had a tough day, a tough week. And I want to acknowledge that you have a right to have that space. It's disappointing to me to know how hard I've worked and what I've prioritized for your well-being, and it's taken so flippantly or dismissed so easily. It feels like very spoiled, and that makes me sad that my hard work and intentionality isn't working better. I know it's a little wordy, but that's likely to penetrate deeply to an older kid, not like you wouldn't say that to a 5-year-old,
Right.
but you'd say it to a 15-year-old. And there's a really good chance, regardless of the mood that 15-year-old is in, unless you've been a lifelong jerk to your kid, that's going to convict them. It's going to make them feel bad, which is appropriate because you want to burst that bubble of entitlement and the world's about me, and see how they're impacting their parents and see their parents attempt to like help them have a better life. That's how you would, broach the conversation, open that door to gratitude, and then talk about the practice of gratitude of like, hey, I just want you to just try practicing being grateful that food is in the pantry and on the table most nights, and that you have clothes to choose every day, and our electricity comes on. You don't have to worry about it. Like we've worked hard to make those things happen. And I want you to be able to celebrate that because that's a big deal. In some parts of the world, those are not guarantees. That's the how. And in expressing our own gratitude. Like, I'm grateful that we even get to talk this morning. I'm grateful that we have time on this drive. Our car worked and we could actually have a conversation versus, figuring out we're even going to get you to school. I'm grateful that we even, are able to communicate and not kept apart by some other force,
Yeah. So how do you? Because this literally just happened to me. Maybe this last weekend. I think I went ahead and grateful shamed the ungratefulness of my daughter, and yeah, it was horrible. It was the same thing. I was like, oh, why aren't you grateful for? And she was complaining and whatever. And again, scenario probably like hot car, been in there a long time. We were traveling for the long weekend. So I guess what are some tips in those moments where there's sort of quick tense moments that, I feel like she might see right through it. Well, hey, look at mom and dad. We're so grateful. Can you be grateful like us?
Yeah.
Or
benchmarking against some, child in a third world country that isn't in a car, like, well, you're lucky to even be in a car with parents that love you. And some kids don't even have parents, or some kids don't even have a car. Again, the sentiment, it resonates with me. I'm like, I agree. Yeah. But does it work very well? No. So how do you, if your intention in this case would be to instill or slowly teach gratitude to your daughter, it would be first diffusing their emotional statement or situation. So to de-escalate or validate, to then you're neutralizing them to open the door for actual teaching. But if you thrust and throw your teaching into that situation, they're not in a place to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say, hey, Carly, it sounds like you're hot and tired and uncomfortable. Is that what I'm hearing? And she says, yes. And you'd say, well, it makes sense. We've been in the car for a while.
Yeah.
And I can get that way too. I'm grateful that at least we're safe and that at least we're like on our way to do something fun. It does kind of suck that it's, uncomfortable.
Yeah. So it's kind of back to your validation.
Yeah. It's a neutralizing, it allows someone to hear something different and transition out of this like discomfort that they're in versus meeting that with judgment or criticism. It's too abrupt. It's too quick of a change. And then your wise words are lost because the kid's not in a place to hear it. But if you asked her a question like, well, I got two questions for you, Carly. What's one thing you would change about the current moment that you don't like? And what's one thing that you do like about the current moment? And I've tricked her into being grateful by allowing her to be bitchy about something else. Right? Like I'm winning the goal of helping her be grateful by working with her current emotion and her current circumstances that she's upset with.
I like that. I'm making notes that that's a little hack. The one thing
Yeah.
you like versus one thing you don't.
Like her momentum is already in the negative.
Right.
Use that momentum to get moving and then gently steer it into a different direction.
Yeah, because she's going to be real quick with the one that she doesn't like.
You could
she's
even
got
say,
one at the ready.
Well, and I'm just obviously spitballing here, but you could even say, it sounds like you have a long list of negatives.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you 3. How about you do 3 negatives about our current situation, but you got to finish with something that's positive.
Yeah.
The ratio doesn't really matter. It's just how manipulated do I need to be to lower her energy level to get her to do the positive thing for it to feel like all of a sudden she's not entitled and she's had to participate in gratitude, even if it's a little bit. That's where I feel like I'm winning as the parent for her sake, because I got her to like shift her thinking just a little bit, versus you should have no negative. All of it's a privilege. Your reaction is absolutely uncalled for, and I'm going to make you be grateful. That doesn't work very well. I mean, 1 out of 50 or 100 times, are you going to pull that off with some piercing comment?
Right.
Versus like it being an energy worker almost. Like we'll use the momentum that's there as direction and then change the direction once you got the wheels moving. She's like on a roll of complaining.
Yeah.
Use it. I mean, I don't know if it's jujitsu or what.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking is like when they, use your momentum against you, basically. Yeah.
It's energy. And
Totally.
that shows up in our relationships and communication as well. It's the same thing. Can you use their energy that's already moving and as to catapult it and steer it into a better direction? Mm-hmm. You're like a Bruce Lee of parenting.
Oh, I like that. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be water.
Yeah.
Like
I say that all the time. It's brilliant.
Right. That really is good.
But this really starts with the awareness of what are you really trying to prioritize and instill. If you don't have a clear plan, develop one today. Like,
all right, so let's dive into that a little bit. All right, so pretty good parents out there, like, holy shit, Josh, I don't have an intention for my parenting.
Yeah.
Look at me, boy's egg on my face. Right?
Yeah.
And what do I do now?
Yeah. Well, we start with what do you value as a human? What do you believe is best for a human? Is it to be happy? Is it to be grateful? Is it to have good relationships? Is it to be healthy? Is it to be mindful? There's overlap in a lot of these, obviously, but those are beliefs and values that most parents tend to have and would make great intentions. But you start with, what do you think is best for you? What do you want for your child? Mm-hmm. I think we did that as a podcast. Like, what do you want for them? Most parents would say, well, I want them to be happy. Oh, okay. Well, what makes them happy? And some of these questions are difficult to really answer because, having a good job doesn't make them happy. Having a good job could just simply be it's a good job. Makes life easier in some ways. Mm-hmm. But we all know lots of people have quote unquote good jobs and they're not happy, right? They have a home, they got plenty of clothes, they even have a partner, they even have friends. They're not happy. Well, then where is happiness occurring? Personally, I believe it's our ability to enjoy the moments of our life, like savoring something is a skill set. It's not a byproduct of the environment. It doesn't automatically come with the thing, the job, the friendship. It's an actual skill set of being so present that you're in the flow of it, or you're able to pick out the beauty of that moment. That's a skill set. Like someone who's, evaluating like a restaurant or an art dealer. They have a skill set that's able to appreciate some of these like fine-tuned, finer things that the average eye or palate can't pick up on. But we all can learn to like see and engage life that way. Personally, I want my children to learn how to enjoy their life. We were going to talk about work ethic. We're going to talk about attitude and how to treat others. But their ability to enjoy their life, I feel like, is their lifeline for a good life. If they don't have the skill set, regardless of their accomplishments, they're not going to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I teach that? Well, I think gratitude is the most practical tool that leads to enjoying one's life, because you're pausing and observing. The sky is beautiful. Listen to those birds chirp. Isn't that rain smell amazing? Isn't it nice to have friends to just sit there and talk to? Isn't it nice that we live in a safe community, or there's food in the fridge? Like those are, I'm modeling that so that they can develop that eye and those senses to actually be happy. Of course, I want them to get good grades and to try hard and experience success. But we all know success, the benefits of success quickly wears off. I mean, you got a trophy or an award, and once you receive it, it goes on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And it's odd to drive around for weeks or months replaying the moment you got the award. You're like, oh, but it's a new day. Like, and you're like, but I just keep thinking about winning that award. It makes me feel so good. It wears off eventually. And then it sits on a shelf, and you actually have to go look at it and replay and remind yourself, oh, I won that. Oh, it was a great accomplishment. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a desperate and kind of cheap way of enjoying your day.
Mm-hmm.
Point being, enjoy the win and the trophy or the grade or whatever, but learning to enjoy more of life beyond that will lead to a better life. And you won't be so desperate to need the next win to feel good. You feel good all the time because your heart's pumping and you don't even know why, and your lungs continue to work without you trying. That's amazing. I want my kids to like appreciate like the essence of life, because it seems so much wiser than go win these things and you'll be good and you'll feel good. That doesn't work. Evidenced by billions of people that have achieved something and they still like aren't happy. They don't sleep well. I want my kids to sleep well. When people ask me how the kids are, I'm like, well, they seem happy. They laugh a lot. They sleep well, and we have a good relationship. To me, like those three, they sleep well. Why is that important? Their mind isn't busy and distracted or held captive by something. That must mean something's going well enough that they're sleeping well. It's good for their body. It's good for their brain to sleep well. And it is it's a measurement, right? Kind of a litmus test of like their mental health, because you don't really sleep very well if you're a mess in your headspace, right? Laugh a lot. Well, all the research in the world says laughing a lot is good for you. And you can't laugh a lot if you're anxious, if you're depressed, if you're conflicted, if you're angry. You're not laughing a lot. So that also is symptomatic of like living well. I want my kids to laugh easily and often. Not because everything's funny and not because they always have to be happy, but most of life is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. It's a miracle that we're even here. In some ways, we don't even know why or how. Let's enjoy it, right? And that, to me, produces a smile and laughter. So to sleep well, to laugh a lot, and to have good relationships. I might be forgetting something that you'd say are the cornerstones to a good life, but to me, I'm like, if that's all they have and that's all they get from me, which is a big accomplishment, I feel like I've gifted them the best things I can. Everything else is like icing on the cake. Like, oh, you went to this place for school. Good for you. That's awesome. Or you have this kind of job, making this kind of money and having this kind of influence. That's great. But I want you to sleep well. I want you to be able to laugh a lot and enjoy life. And I want you to have good relationships. And so what are my parenting intentions? Modeling gratitude, modeling what it looks like to be happy and appreciate, and prioritizing healthy relationships by forgiving and saying I'm sorry, and not making them feel like they have to achieve from my love. Like self-acceptance is even unnecessary. You don't even need to be self-accepting when you're fully present. You're just in it. You're not evaluating yourself. I had that talk with my daughter this last week. A huge conversation about, at her age, how easy it is to lack confidence and how destructive and distracting that can be. And I said, would you like to talk about that? Because I have some thoughts on it. And she said, yes. I said, well, bear with me. I'm going to take you on a little journey here.
Yeah.
But the idea of needing to like yourself and feel good about yourself is better than not liking yourself. But it's still not the best destination. There's a better destination, and that is learning to be so present you don't take the time to go evaluate yourself. Learning to be so present and appreciative, you don't have to compare and contrast. You're just in it. You're just walking, laughing, studying. You're not wondering, are you laughing well? Are you studying good enough? Do you look a certain way to these people as you walk? That's the robber of life. The thief of life is us needing to like be good in something versus just doing it. And so I said, I want you to feel good about yourself, but what I want more than that is that you're so present you don't need to even think about yourself. Be the person you want to be. Be nice, be creative, be fun, be kind, be patient. Yes, but don't be so busy evaluating yourself that you fall in the trap of constant evaluation, which then leads to insecurity because you're likely to find something negative. And then that you kind of hit pause on life or take a different lane. Like, no, I'm talking to Dan, but I'm also thinking I should be better in this area. Or I'm thinking what the pretty good parent listener really thinks of me right now, which immediately downgrades my experience and also interferes with the flow of our experience because I'm doing two things at the same time. And now I'm trying to like make them think something about me, which I can't do. And ironically, I'm likely to make it worse because I'm preoccupied with trying to please them versus just being in the flow of our conversation. So I had that long conversation with my daughter as one of hopefully many conversations of saying, this is what it's like to live well. You learn to not think about yourself a lot because it's a bullshit trap. And you're always going to feel bad coming out of it. Not always feel bad coming out of it, but it's a bad habit because it's easy to find something we don't like. So that's a long story to talk about what I'm trying to instill in my kids is I want them to be mindful, present humans because I believe that's the best way to live. Out of that, we typically are kind and patient, and we typically are grateful and do have fun and do have healthy relationships because we're fully available and present versus evaluating, scoring, measuring, achieving, reflecting. I'm not saying we don't debrief and learn and reflect, but we do it within a concise amount of time with a very clear intention, and then we move back to, all right, now I'm with Dan talking. I'm not continually replaying what happened this morning or last night. I already did that and I already adjusted. Now I'm in the moment. Giving ourselves the freedom and the privilege just to be present. I want my kids to feel that. And so I talk about how the landscape looks outside and what it's like to breathe and wake up alive and have one another. Because I want them to think and feel that way because I feel like that's the best human life they can have.
Yeah. I think it's such to me, it's such a dance between being present and, so like you mentioned other things like work ethic and instilling, maybe grit and having some sort of these sort of backbones for, or like the foundation for what's quote unquote sort of a successful, healthy lifestyle in our society, right?
Yeah.
So like you have the present side, which is, and I think you kind of mark that as ways to look at that is if you sleep well, you laugh a lot and have good relationships. All right. So just to give like an example, I guess what I struggle with. So like my oldest son, Judd, he does those three things extremely well. Loves to sleep. Sleeps great. Laughs a lot. super funny kid, has great relationships. Like, I just feel like he couldn't be, for a 13-year-old kid, couldn't be like in a better spot, right?
Yeah.
Now with that said, he likes to do things, like he's playing football. He's not the most aggressive kid in the world, and I think he likes to do that more for relationships and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And there's these other things he likes to do, especially like golf and all these sort of competitive, sort of track, but then sometimes he doesn't have that drive or that grit or that work ethic, right?
Right.
So, I'm just now replaying back to this last weekend, and we're like laying around. We're up in the mountains, and we got some downtime. And I'm like, "Hey guys, we want to go for exercise or go work," And we go for a little run, and he's with his little brother who's very driven and very competitive, right? And
That's great.
And Judd's like super slow, and I'm like, "What's going on? Can you not just jog with us? We're just going for a jog. Like, you're playing football. You're doing like 2-a-days, And
you can't jog.
And
right
it's
now.
just, and so it was just, I was just so torn as a parent. I'm like, am I trying to instill this work ethic and this grit and this what, and like for what, really?
For
right?
what?
For what?
And not saying that there's not a for what. There's not a what. But to be able to answer the for what is crucial. So what would it be for?
Right. And so I guess for me, it's me looking out for him, being like, oh, if you can't do this jog or this run, and then how are you going to go out on the football field and are you going to let your team down? And
what's this going to lead to?
Be part of a team that's going to lead to you, you just start me not being in the present at the time, right?
Yeah.
We could just enjoy the weekend, and we're up in the mountains and it's gorgeous and it's sunny. And I'm like, well, like I knew there was some talk about like their quarterback went down. He might have to step up for quarterback. And like, does he know how, like all this stuff. I'm like, he needs to be prepared and ready.
What?
For what, right? And so...
Because you want him to be happy, and he's happy.
Yeah, and
you
he's like already happy.
And he has friends.
And he already has friends.
You want to be active, and he's active.
Yeah.
So you're right. The tension is your unconscious drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, he needs to be... he needs to be pushing himself. He needs to be ready for opportunity. But the for what is a more interesting question of like, but for what? For whose sake?
Mm-hmm.
And for what outcome? Well, in case the quarterback goes down, he can jump in there. But what if he can't? So what?
Yeah.
What if he can't throw the football? So? Well, no. There's no real risk, right? You don't like it? Okay, so that's not a problem. You can get over it. What if Isaiah can't climb a chain link fence? Mm-hmm. Probably not a big deal. Maybe a dog eats him someday, or I don't know. He can't escape
from the
police.
He reenacts
back when the dogs chased kids over chain link fences, which is maybe 30 years ago. So what? This is not a staple of human success or good living. There's grit, there's perseverance, there's courage I want for him. I want him to have the courage to do it, and I want to have the perseverance to get over the fence. Mm-hmm. That's why I want him to learn how to do it and do it and accomplish that. But the for what is a really important question. And if you can't answer the for what and feel good about it, you should drop your push and say, he doesn't need to run hard on a casual run with his dad and brother. Mm-hmm. Would I like him to? Yes. But is he wrong for not? I can't really prove that he's wrong. And I can't really intelligently say why he's going to be an unhappy human if he doesn't run right now with us. Mm-hmm. And acknowledging your unconscious push for him to be someone you want him to be might not be what's best for him. Mm-hmm. There are times where it could be what's best for him. If it were a true work ethic thing or an honesty thing or integrity thing, then pushing for him to be something better could be that way. But when he is happy, sleeps well, laughs a lot, has good friends, and he doesn't run as hard as you want him to run on a casual random run, you'd say that's an unnecessary dad agenda. That there's nothing wrong with pushing him a little bit. There is arguably something wrong with pushing him a lot and making him feel judged. To give him a little shit, to run a little harder, that's fine. But if you said, you're a loser, Judd, your brother kicks your ass every time, you're going to get your ass kicked the rest of your life if you don't figure out how to show up and run and things like this. Let's say you said that. You say, well, that's not even true. And that's a horrible message to be sending your kid, especially for someone who's already enjoying life. You've worked hard at curating his experience and you just took a dump on it by picking some random like accomplishment, right? Now, I know you didn't do that, and I'm exaggerating to prove the point. Just like I'm crushing my son's spirit by overemphasizing the importance of climbing a fence.
Yeah.
It's not that important. Would I like him to have the courage and the perseverance? Yes. And I'll continue to like strive for that. But I need to be strategic and mindful of the costs of doing that. And that's where the unconscious parent with no intention, swerving all over the road, running all over the lines of our child's well-being and ego. And to be mindful, stay within the lanes. Don't crush them as you're trying to teach them. That doesn't make any sense. Go slower or be more mindful or strategic in developing this versus just poke and prod like it's easy for us to do.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I guess I was trying to debate if I was poking and prodding or if I was pushing in like a healthy way, and so we go do the run. We're like, hey, we're going to just run 10 minutes in one direction. We'll turn around and come back. And so we get to the 10 minutes and he's kind of like, oh, my leg hurts. This and I'm just like, these are all just dumb. I'm like, I need to stretch some more. I need to do this. I'm like, we're just going for a jog, But so I'm just thinking like, excuse, here it comes,
Yeah.
here it comes. And then we turn around. Then Tyler, who's like, his shoe comes untied. So he's like, no, you guys go ahead without me. I'll just catch up with you. And so then Judd, I think, smells blood in the water.
Oh.
And just decides to take off, right? Dust the little brother back there. So then I'm trying to keep up with Judd. Then he just absolutely hammers it like as we're coming home. And we're both redlining it. And I can't even keep up with him at this point. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I didn't know he had this in him.
Yeah.
And he, beats me back to the house. And I'm like, that's incredible. And then he's fully redlined. He's like, I'm going to throw up. He's crying. I'm going to throw up, Dad. I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So now I'm thinking, was my earlier jabs like enough? And like, was it in a healthy way or was it a good way? But then he showed all this grit, and so then I'm giving him huge high fives. And, he worked through the stomach pain and the about to puke and throw up and just redlining it. But then it was just funny. I don't know. I guess I'm always surprised with your kids. Like they just all of a sudden, do the thing that you don't expect them to do.
Find an extra gear.
And then I was just trying to think, I was like, was everything good? Was that all in a healthy way? And then fast forward the next day, he has his big football game and we're like, oh, he's going to be afraid to tackle. He's going to, all the things. He's not real aggressive. And he just went out there and went nuts.
Nice.
Like was just, like a beast and all that stuff. And now I'm like, okay, now is he getting this taste of the, like, this is what mom and dad want you to do when you push you, and now you got the rewards and it worked out good. And now you have the like adrenaline high and now it was it all. So I guess that's what I'm saying is that dance between, like I would like to think he saw a correlation of, okay, I worked hard. I had grit. I went out and did the thing I wanted to do. It paid off. He had like 3 great catches. It's like, game winning catch, and everybody was like chanting his name, and it was like right out of a movie, like where he's like almost like up on
Rudy.
the shoulder, Rudy and stuff, and we're like, where did this come from, and then so super excited for him, and you like soak up those moments and enjoy it, but like you said, it's just those are fleeting, right? Like they don't, it's in the past.
But to highlight what it feels like, the good part of him succeeding is a result of him pushing. And to say, I want you to feel good. And most people report feeling good when they accomplish something that was difficult. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with my love for you or whether you're a good human or not, you're going to
Right.
feel better by getting yourself in a position of winning or succeeding or experiencing those moments. That's why you want them to work hard, not because they're winning your love or they're winning their self-respect necessarily, but it leads to moments that are enjoyable. But you want them to be able to enjoy the whole process,
Right.
ideally. Like enjoyment shouldn't ideally it's not on hold until you experience that moment, because sometimes it doesn't come. Like think of the Olympians that worked hard for the last 4 years
Mm-hmm.
and they got sick the day before their race, or they had a bad start, or something happened, and then boom, was it all for naught? Well, that's philosophical. I would say if they enjoyed being an Olympian, they enjoyed every day being an Olympian, then it was a great way to live.
Mm-hmm.
If they believed their only worth was whether it was found on the podium, then they probably had a worthless experience.
Yeah.
So, like learning to enjoy the run, the drills, the day, and enjoy the results, to me, is the ultimate outcome. Like
Yeah.
it's not just the results, but the results are really fun when they're good.
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, you learn how to enjoy all of that.
Well, I think you put it best. We were talking about this a while ago. I think it's you and I, but something about, if you can take care of these things first early, where it's, do you sleep well? Do you laugh a lot? Do you have good friends? Do you have those core basics? Are you mindful? Are you in the present? Things like that. And, um, and then after that, it's like you have to do something, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, if it wants to be, for him, he wants to play football. Somebody wants to be an Olympian. Someone wants to be a musician, a writer, or whatever. Then they can go do those. And then I think inside those things, you have another subset of like intentions and things
Yeah,
and work
for
ethic
sure.
and all
That's
that
where
stuff,
those
right? You know,
that's where those subsets are most relevant, is
right.
within that specific goal. What are the three things you want to prioritize? But big picture, as a parent, having that guiding light day in, day out for the next, it doesn't stop at 18 when they leave. It's their whole life. But what do you really want for them? And are you pushing the right levers, pulling the right levers and pushing the right buttons to really deliver that outcome? And most parents unwisely, unconsciously prioritize: get a good job, go to a good school, you'll be happy. Like, no, you won't. You might be happy, but you're only going to be happy if you have the skill set of being appreciative and grateful and present, and while you do those other things. So it's not against those accomplishments. You might as well go do great things if you're going to be here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But learn and practice enjoying all of it, because there's no reason not to.
Right.
And I want my kids, that's my intention, is I want them to have good days. Because if they have good days now and they learn to live that good life, they're likely to be able to maintain that themselves when they're outside the house. They're outside my home.
Yeah.
So setting an intention that you feel really good about the impact and the long-term outcome for your child, and then making sure you're reviewing that. Like, are you doing that? What does that look like today? Do you need to go apologize and or adjust some of your approaches to accomplish this new intention? And you can update those intentions too at different seasons.
Mm-hmm.
For my intentions with my children, they're probably not going to change with their age or with seasons. It's going to be being grateful is a good way to live always. Having good relationships and sleeping well and having a clear head, I want those the rest of your life. And so we're going to continue to talk about those and model those. That doesn't mean I don't push in certain areas, because I know it feels better for them to accomplish that tough thing. I want them to feel that way. And, not a but, and I want them to sleep well and have a clear head and be grateful and mindful. So the challenge that we have for the Pretty Good Parent today, and this is to you, the listener, is that you put some time in this today or this week and come up with a parenting intention that you really believe in, and then come up with a few examples, maybe 3 examples of how that manifests in your relationship with your child or your children. Mm-hmm. Is it how you talk? Is it how you model what you model? Is it a new habit you put in the family? Like, really put this into practice and see how it goes, and then have a designated time to evaluate. not
Yeah.
constantly in the background, but like, all right, weekly, I'm going to review. Did I teach? Did I model? And did I ask to ensure that this stuff is actually being seen, absorbed, or witnessed? That'd be the challenge to the listener today.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go first. I'm going to go ahead and so my intention, and I think I said this at the beginning of one of our intro ones, was I would like to be, I guess my parenting intention is to enable my kids to be able to emotionally regulate. And so I think what that means for me is that I can try to teach by, i.e., modeling that, right?
Yeah.
And so, for example, like not getting a hug from my daughter Carly this morning from school. I think in years past I would have lost it. Why can't you give your dad a hug? We're part of this family, blah blah.
Yeah.
And just being able to, for my like those little moments to myself, and then there's big moments, there's big blow ups, right? To be able to emotionally regulate myself. So I think that, and also just practice gratitude. I love that one. And I think I'm just going to jump on yours to sleep well, laugh a lot, good relationships, be in the present, gratitude. Yeah. And then I'm going to try to check in with at least my wife once a week on all those things. Maybe we'll just throw Sunday night. It's kind of like the start of the week for us around here.
A little review.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a challenge to you, pretty good parents. Come up with your intentions. Have what are your parenting intentions, and pick a time and a place to go over them and to check in on them. Right?
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love it, Josh. Thank you very much. As always, it was a real
Thanks,
treat.
Dan. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All of your fun stories.
Well. Yeah, we're all learning together, Josh. All right, pretty good parents. If you found this valuable, go share with 3 other people and share your intentions with them. Let's all be pretty good, intentful parents together.
Yeah, to make a better world.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you on the next one.
Pretty good.